Welcome into the KSO show. Mason Voth, Drew Galloway here with you as we get set and ready to roll on this Monday. Everything kind of settling now from basketball over the weekend. Not the most exciting situation there. Tyler Perry's playing good basketball, though. But there was a lot of focus on what was going on with the NFL Combine this weekend. Always kind of a fun thing to keep tabs on. A lot more fun when K-State is continuously sending a lot of guys there now. Second straight year that they sent 4 players to the combine, 2 of which we knew were going to be in, the probably the top 5-6 rounds of the draft. But both of those guys had, I think, really good combines, and we'll talk about that. And then we'll discuss the other 2 that made their way to Indianapolis for K-State. But the 4 that went for K-State to the combine this year: Cooper Beebe, Ben Sinnott, KT Leveston, and Khalid Duke. All at one point or another played significant roles for K-State, and really all pretty deserving of being there. And you think of 3 in particular, you say what they did on the field combined with their, size and everything else warrants them being there. Khalid Duke, I think, much more of like a projection guy where like this guy's got the physical form. So like, let's see, because I still contend that I think Khalid Duke underachieved at K-State based on what expectations were set for him. And maybe expectations were unfair, but also if you're going to the NFL Combine, like K-State's had really good players not go there in the past. They clearly think that Khalid Duke has the physical attributes to be an NFL defensive end. And so, little tough there that he didn't pan out necessarily it could have been, but he was still solid and gave some good to K-State. So we'll just dive into it. Let's start from the top here and go with the number 1 player that probably people were looking forward to seeing at the combine. You talked a lot about this, Drew, with the expectations going in and kind of what outsiders were saying about Cooper Beebe. But everybody that's been around Cooper Beebe knew that he was going to turn some heads and he was going to show them, I'm not exactly what you think I am. So give me the impressions of Cooper Beebe and then what he did at the combine and kind of make sense of that for people.
It just didn't make sense to me or any of the 3 of us kind of leading into the combine that there was a lot of talk of, oh, we don't think that Cooper Beebe is like super athletic from the NFL draft community. And to be honest, that just kind of made me laugh because of what I'd heard from sources leading up to the NFL Combine process about how he'd been attacking it. And it just made me laugh because if you watch any of the tape, like he is plenty athletic. Like he was athletic enough to play tackle in the Big 12. So he's got the tools. But he really lit up the combine testing. 5.03 40-yard dash, which is really, really impressive at his size. And he hit the numbers that he wanted to hit at the vertical, the broad jump, and in the 40, and in the shuttle and the 3-cone. So the one thing that if you're an NFL guy that you're probably knocking him on is that he came in listed at, I think he was listed at 6'3" at the official, like as his official measurement was 6'4" on the K-State website. So like NFL people might knock him for that and for his arm length. But when you watch the tape, I mean, he is probably going to be like an 8 to 10 year NFL guy, if I had to take a guess.
I think one of the smart things you can do in football is just be watch the tape type of guy. I think we get that a lot of times, and you can kind of make people, think about that if you drop that on. It makes you sound smart too. If you say, well, you got to go back and watch the tape. If you go and look at, you can find all the results from the combine on the NFL website, and it grades each prospect. And I thought it was interesting because obviously those are not, they're not the gospel, but I think it is telling when guys get good versions and good grades. And Cooper Beebe, it gives a score, but then says, will eventually be a plus starter. And to me, that's, you get that kind of praise going into this. That kind of reaffirms some of it. He also, you go and look at what he did with his score breakdowns. He had the top production score for guards in this combine. His athleticism score was 3rd, and his total score for guards at the combine was 1st. So he came through and had a really nice showing there for K-State and for himself. And we'll kind of see. People are always enamored with 40 times at the combine. What did you think of the 5.03?
Honestly, I was impressed. I know that he coming in wanted to be in the 5 range, but not, above a 5.2. So for him to run a 5.03, or that was, like, I think somebody posted that it was like the 8th or ninth fastest 40 time of offensive lineman there. So for him to hit that number is massive, and it just goes to show that, like, he's probably a lock to at least be a day 2 pick at this point.
Yeah, it'll be good and fascinating to see. All right, we'll move on now. We'll go to the next probably big name that K-State sent to the combine. That would be Ben Sinnott, their tight end. Obviously, a lot of production basically from the last half of 2022 all the way through 2023. And this is a guy for a long time. Chris Kleiman and the coaching staff at K-State was like, this is an NFL tight end right here. And just like we talked about, Cooper Beebe had a pretty good showing for his position. Ben Sinnott also had that for himself. And in addition to all the metrics that come out, Ben Sinnott, in a lot of ways, was probably the cleanest from drill to drill out of all the tight ends. I mean, we sat there, we were watching it Friday night, and he looked like the best tight end there in terms of, hey, we're asking you to do this. He came through. We're going to ask you to do that. He came through. Other guys that were dropping balls, they were in bad position. So give us the lowdown on Ben Sinnott.
Yeah, it's funny that you point that out because, like, Ben Sinnott was the one tight end that, like, looked supremely smooth and athletic the whole time. Like, I know that we watched it, we're like, "Wow, some of these tight ends don't really look like they know what they're doing," and Sinnott really did, and he came out and it was a similar performance kinda to what Julius Brents did last year at the NFL Combine, where you knew that there was gonna be some draft buzz and that he was going to get drafted, but it was probably, like, closer to day 3, and then Sinnott comes up and just or comes out and just lights up the combine to the point where, I know that, again, this isn't the gospel either, but, there was, Chad Ryder from the NFL Network or did something for, NFL.com talking about guys that, really improved their stock during the NFL or during the combine, and Ben Sinnott was one of the names that he mentioned as now possibly being a day 2 guy. But the crazy part for me with, Sinnott, number 1, he just looks like he's put on a lot of muscle, after the season to get ready for this. But the 40-inch vertical, that's the one that really turned my head with all of those numbers up there, because that's just an elite vertical jump for anybody at any position.
Well, and we talked about the vertical when it happened, and when we got the score to come out, because his 40-inch vertical is higher than, it's better than wide receivers that were there, like A.D. Mitchell from Texas, Roma Dunze from Washington, Keon Coleman from Florida State, Ladd McConkey from Georgia only clocked in with a 36 on that. So the 40-inch vertical was a major eye opener there in terms of what he was able to do. Uh, Again, people I think mostly watched the combine for 40 times. Was the 4.68 slower than what you thought, or is that probably in the neighborhood of where you thought he would be?
It's probably closer to the neighborhood I thought that he would be in. He is somebody that is quicker than fast. The one thing that really kind of popped and opened my eyes was that he was a lot faster than Jatavion Sanders from Texas, which I don't think I would have guessed coming in, where I thought that they would run pretty similar times, but Sanders ran a 4.75 to open, or that was his first 40 time. The other thing with 40s that's hard, and especially for guys like offensive linemen and tight ends, so much of the 40 is your technique. And we commented with Sinnott and with Jatavion Sanders actually that their first few steps were just really slow, and that's what's going to
Well,
kill
and
you.
Sinnott even false started on his 40.
Yes,
So yeah.
and the second time that Sinnott went, it looked like he almost fell. So the 40s are hard. He had a really good 10-yard split, and I think that that's what teams are more kind of like looking for with bigger guys, because he ran a 1.58 unofficial on his 10-yard split, which is great on the composite speed grade. But again, K-State just killing the RAS game. Sinnott's raw athletic score was 29th among tight ends at the NFL Combine from 1987 to 2024. So you look at Beebe and Sinnott, and then Julius Brents last year, and you're really seeing kind of all the work that K-State's put in and strength and conditioning and what they're looking for in recruiting. We want to get like the most athletic guys possible.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like a testament to, like you're saying, the recruiting path and plan, which I think you go back to when Chris Kleiman first came here, he started to change the recruiting path to, especially early on, it was like, just get us the guys that we think can be athletes in the Big 12, and we'll figure out their position later. They've been able to refine that a little bit more because they've had success and because they've showcased what they can do to where it can be, okay, we want receivers that do this, or we want defensive ends that do this, but they're still taking that approach of they understand that athleticism is important in all this, and some skills that can't really be taught, you need that. You can try and mold the other things, and I think that they found the guys, and obviously they're great at identifying the talent because Beebe and Sinnott were, lowly thought of guys coming out of high school, and here they are, two of the best that K-State sent to the Combine. So it'll be interesting to see where they end up falling. Two other Wildcats made it to Indianapolis. Khalid Duke, KT Leveston were also there. Khalid Duke, if anybody's interested, he was the only Wildcat to do the bench press. He pumped out 21 there. What do we think about KT Leveston and Khalid Duke with the showings that they had at the Combine?
I still think that KT Leveston will end up getting his name called on day 3. I just think that he has good tape, and he is a freak athlete for his size. I want to say that he had a pretty good RIS score as well. Khalid Duke, though, it's going to come down to, does the team take a flyer on him late? And it was like that going into the Combine, so it's not like he hurt himself. It was more of he didn't really improve his stock a ton. To be honest, I thought that Duke would run closer to 4.7 flat than 4.8. So that hurt a little bit. But I think that there's a chance that he still gets his name called. KT Leveston ended up with his RAS as 6.43, which is still 513th out of the 1,434 guards at the Combine from 1987 to 2024. So that's still pretty dang good for KT Leveston. The other thing that really kind of popped out to me about KT was how slimmed down he is now. He's 326 now. So I think that there's a chance that he gets drafted. There's probably more of a chance that he gets drafted, though, than Duke at this point.
And this goes back to, I talked about the prospect grade that NFL.com will throw out there on him. KT Leveston, even with all that considered, he was still given the brand they have him fall under, good backup with the potential to develop into starter, which seems about what a lot of people that were directly around K-State thought it would be for KT Leveston. They see the potential there, so that's something to watch out for. I mean, I think it'll be fascinating to see where some of these guys fall. And with what you're talking about with Khalid Duke, it comes down to, it's not like he had much to lose at the Combine, but there was maybe some room for him to gain ground and find himself in a position, and he didn't really do anything to stand out. And I think that's probably the thing where you miss an opportunity when you're not able to do that at the Combine. But we'll see. He'll obviously have like workouts and other stuff that'll take place, and then there will be the pro day also that these guys will probably be a little bit more comfortable in. Although the pro day is different this year with the Big 12 doing everybody together down in Texas, so we'll kind of see how that works out for everybody else. Any other impressions from the Combine? Maybe not even to do with K-State or things K-State related.
I'll say that you can see why Texas was so good last year with the guys that they sent to the Combine. A.D. Mitchell, Xavier Worthy lit it up on the offensive side. And then that's without Jonathan Brooks, who tore his ACL, so he didn't participate in the Combine after getting hurt during the season. And then Byron Murphy and Tavondre Sweat were both really, really good.
Tavondre Sweat, real quick for people interested, 366 pounds. He ran a 5.27 40.
Yeah, he's a freak. Like Jatavion Sanders was probably the most disappointing Texas player, and he was still pretty good at the combine.
Mhm.
It's like you can see why Texas really turned the corner this year because they had so many guys that are probably going to be picked in the top 40.
Yeah, no, it's a good point, and we'll see how things kind of look and move forward. Xavier Worthy, who you threw out there, he broke the combine record for a 40, and we talked about it while we were sitting there eating Friday night in Cincinnati. Will somebody go sub 4.2? Who had the tweet that said, "Will somebody go sub 4.2 in our lifetime?"
Ooh, that's a good question, but somebody will definitely go sub 4.2 in our lifetime. We're getting really, really close.
Yeah, if you go and look in the last 2 years now, 2, 3 years, you've had a 4.21, a 4.23, a 4.26, a 4.26 go out there. So yeah, I don't think we're at the point where, I mean, at some point we'll top out with human development and be like, okay, a human cannot run faster than this, but it keeps going down, and at some point somebody will come along there, even if they just throw like, somebody that all they've done is try to be fast and get that 40 time. I think it'll happen. Honestly, that might turn into like the NBA All-Star game where it was like, okay, we want somebody to score 200 points until they do it. I think the NFL, maybe they have a plant in the coming years with
Ooh, I
somebody
like
that
it.
is fast, and just like, where did this guy come from? And some really stupid team like the Raiders is like, that guy fast. He can play receiver for us. And then
Wrong.
you're like, oh well, actually, he's kind of stupid. He's not really good at football things, but yes, he does run fast. So sorry to the Raiders fans for putting him down out there, but that's kind of what I'm thinking could happen there. All right, well, we'll see. We'll have more draft coverage with K-State when that time of the year comes. They just keep pushing the draft back later and later in the year. So I
Yeah.
think now it's like the end of April or something. But there will be pro day coming up, and then also, I mean, tomorrow is the first day of K-State spring practice, so we'll have that going on and coverage from that. Chris Kleiman is speaking on Monday, so if you're watching this, he maybe has already spoken. You can go watch that on the K-StateOnline YouTube page, and if you're watching this and he hasn't yet, then it will be there later today. So be on the lookout for all that. That will do it for Drew Galloway. I am Mason Voth. Thank you for watching the KSO Show. Come check back in tomorrow where we will discuss K-State, KU, a little preview time for both of those teams.